Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled People's Story. I've lived in my house for over 15 years and never had any issues with my neighbors or the homeowners association. That all changed when Maggie became president of the homeowners association board last year. Ever since she took over, Maggie has been on a power trip trying to enforce every little rule in the bylaws. I'm all for keeping our neighborhood looking nice, but she takes it to an extreme level. The first sign of trouble happened when Maggie sent out an email announcing that everyone's lawns needed to be mowed weekly from spring through fall. She claimed overgrown grass brought down property values, and it was our civic duty to comply. Once a week seemed excessive to me. I've always mowed every 10, 14 days in the summer and less frequently in the spring and fall when growth slows. My lawn looks neat and tidy on that schedule. I ignored Maggie's weekly mowing demand, figuring it was just an overzealous suggestion. Then I got a violation notice in the mail saying my lawn exceeded the maximum 4-inch height in the bylaws. Turns out Maggie had gotten the board to amend the bylaws and make weekly mowing mandatory. I was furious that such a drastic rule change happened without consulting homeowners. I emailed Maggie that I mow responsibly on a 10-14-day cycle and she had no right to impose unreasonable mowing standards. She sent a snippy reply saying the board had voted and I needed to comply or face fines. I stood my ground and kept mowing on my usual schedule. The next week I got another violation notice and a $50 fine for excessive lawn height. When I confronted Maggie at the next homeowners association meeting, she brushed me off, saying I agreed to follow the bylaws when I moved here. I pointed out that changes happened without homeowner input, but she didn't care. We went back and forth all summer with me mowing when I saw fit, and Maggie slapping me with violation after violation. She even took pictures of my lawn with a ruler showing it over 4 inches. By September, I had accrued $400 in fines. Maggie smugly told me I could pay up or a lien would be placed on my home. That's when I'd had enough. This had to stop before that crazy woman put a lien on my house over grass. I decided to fight back legally and contacted a real estate attorney. He reviewed the bylaws and agreed the mowing rule change violated procedures for proper homeowner notification and approval. With his help, I sent Maggie a letter demanding all fines be retracted and the mowing mandate overturned. She sent a scathing email in response, telling me to stop harassing and threatening board members. She included screenshots of my aggressive emails as evidence. I showed these emails to my attorney as proof of Maggie's irrational behavior. He agreed we had solid grounds for a lawsuit against her power grabs. We filed a suit accusing Maggie of impropriety, abuse of power, and inflicting undue financial harm over trivial bylaw infractions. I also requested she be removed as Homeowners Association president. Not long after, I came home to find an eviction notice taped to my front door. The notice claimed I was being kicked out of the neighborhood for being an uncooperative homeowner. This woman had completely lost her mind. With my attorney's help, we got a court order to stop any eviction proceedings since we were already in litigation with the Homeowners Association Board. As the case moved forward, other neighbors started coming forward, also fed up with Maggie's absurd rules and aggressive tactics. 10 neighbors agreed to be witnesses about her hostile behavior and vindictive fining sprees over the most minor violations. Their first-hand accounts would be crucial testimony against Maggie's leadership. When the court date arrived, Maggie came prepared with her own high-paid homeowners association attorney, clearly ready for battle. Over 2 grueling days, we presented our evidence of Maggie's misconduct, abuse of homeowners, illegal changes to bylaws, and retaliatory acts. The judge listened intently, frequently scowling at Maggie's callous responses under oath. By the end, Maggie's credibility was shattered and the verdict was clear. The judge ruled fully in my favor, ordering all fines rescinded, the mowing rule overturned, and Maggie permanently banned from serving on the Homeowners Association Board. Other board members who enabled her behavior were also kicked off. Justice was served. As Maggie stormed out of court, the neighbors and I shook hands, satisfied to finally be rid of her after a year of tyranny. In the months since, our neighborhood has truly flourished without Maggie's toxicity. The new Homeowners Association Board is reasonable and open to feedback. They even held a community barbecue to thank me for standing up to Maggie's dictatorship. I'm proud to have stopped that crazy control freak who thought she could bully homeowners and impose her obsessive rules. Now, whenever I mow my lawn on my relaxed schedule, I feel vindicated knowing I fought for the well-being of our neighborhood against a power-hungry bully. The next one is a pro-revenge story. I used to manage a catering company for my boss while he was undergoing chemotherapy. This is one of my first gigs where I was in charge. The bride called me at 1 in the afternoon the day before the wedding and decided she wanted a more budget-friendly menu. She and her husband had already paid for almost everything, and it's far too late to change anything. I told her that, but she started throwing a fit, saying that she wanted to change the steak to chicken and demanded that we either serve chicken or charge her the price of the chicken. She stated that she would not be paying for anything extra. I informed her that, according to the contract, she was to receive 150 steak lunches at a price of $50 per plate. It also stated that she couldn't change the menu unless she did so at least a month before the wedding. When she heard this, she flipped out and started screaming at me, calling me illiterate and telling me her fiancé is a lawyer. She claimed they would sue me and so on. She handed the phone over to her fiancé, and he also started screaming at me, saying it's his wedding and he can have whatever he wants. They ended up firing me on the spot, and I informed them that the cancellation fee is 90% of the catering cost, which I had already been paid for. They started screaming at me, telling me that I'm worthless, and they can find anyone else to cater for them. They threatened to make me pay for it, etc. They ended up hanging up on me, thank God. I had a feeling I should probably keep preparing the food in case they call the next day and want us to cater. So we finished cooking, and the next day at 7 a.m. I got a call from the groom. He demanded that I come down to cater the wedding or they were going to sue me for not providing the service. I calmly told the guy that they terminated the contract yesterday, and as per the termination clause in the contract, we were entitled to keep 90% of the entire catering cost. He was furious. He didn't say anything, but I could feel how angry he was over the phone. After an awkward silence, I informed him that if he would like us to cater the event, he would have to go for same-day catering, which was 3x the original price I charged him. He would also have to pay all the fees in advance, and the food would depend on what we had available and ready. We also reserved the right to refuse service. He got really angry at this point, calling it extortion. He argued that he had already paid for the food, so he shouldn't have to pay again. I reminded him of the termination clause and also explained that the food was for a previous contract that had ended, so he would need to pay for it again. He ended up starting a new contract with us, at 3x the original price. He tried to change the menu again just to spite me, but I made sure he knew I reserved the right to refuse service. He and his bridezilla kept everything the same, down to the baby carrots and, of course, the steak, all while paying me 3x the original price if they had stuck with the original contract. As soon as we got to the venue, before I brought anything out, I made the bride and groom sign the new contract and pay me the full amount in advance, $22,000. Then, I left to deposit the money. While I was gone, they harassed my caterers and even threatened someone with deportation, even though they were legal. He tried to sue us later, but the judge listened to the recorded phone calls, reviewed the contract, and told him to pay my legal fees. I looked them up on Facebook recently. Apparently they are divorced now. It's only been 3 years. The next one is a petty revenge story. This happened yesterday at work. I work in a small gourmet store in a high-end area, so we have some entitled people. I work in the bakery checkout section with 2-3 other people, depending on the day. When this happened, there were 3 of us working, but one girl, CW2, was in the back. My coworker, CW1, was helping this guy find a box of sesame seed cookies we sometimes have. We have a cookie shelf near the entrance that connects us to the other side of the store. She and the customer were standing 5 feet away from the actual entrance, so it had opened up, and there was about 3 to 4 feet on the other side for people to pass. Enter the rude lady, RL. RL was carrying about 4 sandwiches, 2 of which were wrapped in a container. Her hands were full, but she wasn't close to dropping everything. She didn't have a cane or anything, walked like I did. Anyway, she comes through the opening, and CW1 and the customer are in her way. They blocked a direct path, but she could have easily gone around them to get to me. She would have to cross over to get to me anyway because of where the register is. Instead of taking advantage of the 3-4 feet that was wide open, this woman stops, sighs, and says, "Seriously?" In shock, CW1 and the customer move out of her way but are giving her a hard side eye. I'm honestly in shock as I'm ringing her up, but I'm in customer service mode, so I'm smiling and being pleasant. She tells me the sandwiches she is buying are for a baseball team. When I asked, she said it was college rather than high school or little league, so it was probably her son on the team, as she only looks like she is in her late 50s. The exit is about 10 feet away from the registers, and we face the door. As this lady is walking out, I say to my coworker, loudly enough for her and others to hear, "She's such a nice grandma bringing her grandson's baseball team sandwiches." She turns and looks at me, but I said it sincerely enough that she didn't want to call me out in front of other customers. She just walked after that. The next one is a malicious compliance story. 9 years ago, I used to work at a car parts manufacturing company where I made dashboards. We had various sections and types of dashboards, ranging from analog to hybrid to fully digital. This story takes place during my time working on the fully digital dashboards. The process of making a dashboard was deceptively simple. You would place a PCB into a frame, press a button, wait 2 minutes, then move the frame with the PCB to a different machine. Next, you'd connect the display, press another button, and wait 5 minutes. Afterward, you'd transfer everything to a third machine, manually check the cover for defects, attach the cover, press a button, wait 5 minutes, and finally, move the completed dashboard to the checking machine. Throughout this process, I would run from machine to machine for optimal productivity. In a 12-hour shift, the goal was to produce around 500, 600 dashboards, assuming there were no toilet breaks or machine breakdowns, which happened frequently. My story takes place when I was responsible for the cover part of the process. We had a small transparent plastic piece on the cover that displayed a symbol for an oil change, and my task was to inspect it for any imperfections. If I found any imperfections, the cover would be thrown into a crate and sent to quality control. Occasionally, if the quality control deemed it usable, though this was rare, the cover would be sent back for use. One day, my team leader approached me and said, "You'll be getting a light at your station to help you spot imperfections more easily. Anything you find, send it to QC. Don't leave anything out." I thought it was a positive change, as it would improve working conditions to some extent. So I began inspecting the covers. However, I encountered an issue. Every single cover I checked had defects. They had dots, lines, and some were torn or cracked. I informed my team leader about this, and she asked how many I had found in the last hour. I told her I had found over 50. After thinking for a moment, she smiled and said, "Keep doing your job, just make sure we meet our daily quota." I was puzzled at first, but then I realized her plan and smiled back. In the following days, crates piled up at my station, making it difficult to move around. Due to the dip in productivity, the quality control manager came down to investigate. My team leader, aware that we wouldn't meet our quota due to the defective products, instructed me to focus on my work and not worry about the defective items. When the QC manager asked about the crates, I calmly explained that they contained defective products with dots and lines in the transparent part. He became increasingly upset, took one of the covers, inspected it, agreed that it was subpar, and took it to the QC station for further assessment. Several hours later, he returned and told me to use all the covers and not bother checking for those defects anymore. I tried to explain that I was supposed to check for these issues, but he cut me off, saying, "Do as I tell you. QC approved it, so it's acceptable. Just work." Although I was frustrated, I complied. I stopped checking for defects, and our productivity surged. We achieved unprecedented levels of productivity at our station, and even the QC manager praised us for our improved output, remarking, "See how easy it was? You just needed to do your job." I grinned, fueled by both annoyance and anticipation, knowing that this decision would eventually backfire. And indeed, the moment of reckoning arrived. Our customers, which included car manufacturers like Fiat, Volvo, and Kia, received the dashboards and were displeased with the quality. Upon plugging them in for internal testing, they immediately noticed the dots, lines, cracks, and other defects. Chaos ensued. Over 2,000 dashboards were returned, and the customers demanded explanations and refunds. The spotlight turned to the quality control manager, who in turn directed his furious gaze at me. He stormed down and berated me for compromising quality for the sake of productivity. I maintained a smile and calmly retorted, "But boss, you instructed me to disregard these issues and focus on my tasks, and that's what I did." Although he was displeased, he knew he was cornered. He took the blame for his mistake. He received a mild reprimand, apparently his first in his long tenure with the company, and I escaped unscathed. The company incurred losses of over €5,000 due to the defective dashboards. I resumed my checking responsibilities as intended, and surprisingly, I encountered no further issues with the company. I knew how to perform my job effectively. The QC manager avoided me for the remainder of my time there. According to a friend who continued working there after my departure, the QC manager was relieved that I had left and commented, "That individual with his attitude won't find another job easily." Truly, what an unfortunate situation. The next one is an entitled people story. In the past, I've made posts about my jerk of a brother, but this time something else happened. I decided to go camping again for the first time this year because of spring break. Though I only got the weekend to go, it was just enough for me to unwind. My brother didn't follow me like he used to. I think I've finally gotten him to understand that screwing with me is just not worth it anymore after he drank that growler full of laxative-spiked beer he stole from me last year. So the drama from him hasn't been as bad for the past few months, though he's still an entitled jerk and I've got plenty of things to tell about him and his antics from the months I wasn't posting. I figured my worries about camping trouble were over, but no, I had to deal with a lunatic Karen. I'd already spent one night at my campsite. I was loving the fresh air, and fortunately rain was minimal. That's the only reason I went. Otherwise I'd have just stayed home. But I had an itch to scratch to get out and enjoy some mountain air. I was far from alone as the spaces around me were full of tents, trailers, and RVs. Plenty of people caught the camping bug during spring break, just like I did. I was sitting relaxed in a folding lawn chair and watching Tailspin on my portable DVD player. Yeah, I know it's a cartoon, and an old one at that, but I enjoy it since, as a kid, I used to watch some old tapes of it a cousin had, and I've owned the DVDs of the complete series for around 10 years. And I won't deny I've always had a bit of a crush on the character Rebecca Cunningham. I had headphones on because other campers were playing music, barbecuing, and doing other things. I was just chilling and letting myself mentally zone out with some refreshing cold beer when I got a sudden and hard tap on my shoulder that frankly scared the piss out of me for a second. And then I turned around to see a roughly middle-aged woman in over-tight purple yoga pants with her hands on her hips. She didn't have the Karen haircut, but she did have the bleach blonde hair and overly large bug-eye sunglasses. I know in this situation a lot of people will reflexively say, "Can I help you?" But that's just giving an opening to these people to say whatever they want. So my first reaction is to just angrily say, "What? Can't you see I'm trying to relax by myself?" That set her aback for a second. She didn't go away, so I paused the episode I was on and grumpily asked her what she was bothering me about. She spoke up in a matter-of-fact way that sounded like she was trying to be in charge. I guess trying to activate mom mode on a stranger, but I think the unfriendly scowl on my face was enough to show that I'm not exactly friendly. So she just pointed at the portable DVD player and said that she wanted to borrow it, and the headphones for her daughter. To make it brief, I said no. And no is a complete sentence, because I don't know her, I don't know if she'd bring it back, and I certainly don't know if her kid wouldn't damage it. I do actually keep a smaller backup portable DVD player in the camper too, but I wasn't about to let this woman know that. Well, she certainly didn't take being told off like that well, and then launched into a tirade about how I was a grown man watching cartoons, how they only have one TV in their RV, and her daughter needs something to watch because her kids can't agree on what to watch, so she needs my DVD player. I coldly said that was not happening, and she actually gave me a loud, "Why not?" So I pointed out to her that this was really not my problem, and she just crossed her arms and said that as an adult, I should be putting kids first. I said that would be the case if I had kids. But her kids are not my kids, I don't know them, and I'm in no way related to them. Therefore I have no obligation to them. So she rolled her eyes and then tried to offer me money for the headphones and DVD player. Admittedly, I didn't pay much for either of them. But I don't care, I wasn't interested in selling. She only offered $20 for both anyway. I just told her no, and to kindly leave me alone to watch movies in peace. Then I tried to sit back down and resume the episode. She didn't take that well and proceeded to try and grab my DVD player right in front of me, like I was just going to let her walk off with it. I got up and stopped her while saying, "That ain't yours, lady." She proceeded to try and shove me over. Try being the word. She clearly underestimated how heavy I am. I don't look it at all, but I'm around 230 pounds. My body frame just hides it well, and I've been in a few brawls in my life. I ended up grabbing her arms and shoving her back with little effort. She fell on her bum into some wet grass and started yelling that I'd assaulted her while looking around for support. I've seen enough Karen stories to know where this goes if I say nothing. So I yelled, "Yeah, assault! Assault on me when you tried to push me over and steal my stuff. And there are plenty of witnesses around us, lady. Or did you not notice?" There had already been a few people around us watching the whole altercation, and they'd gone dead quiet while staring. So then I said to everyone, "Check it out! We've got a bona fide Karen here who tried to take my stuff for her precious angel baby. Everybody clap for her!" And they did. They actually started clapping. The Karen looked completely humiliated and stormed off screeching that I was an a-hole. Her yoga pants ass was all wet from the grass too, which only made it funnier. I kept thinking, "Your ass is grass," as she walked away, but I didn't say it aloud. I tried to resume watching the DVD as I was, but I felt uneasy that the Karen might come back. She sneaked up on me rather easily before, and I didn't want to risk that again, so I packed up and went back into my camper to continue watching and drinking inside. Got pretty plastered that night. I remember giggling like a moron while watching the episode with the panda people that were evil Chinese stereotypes. Stayed at the campsite for one more night and didn't see the Karen again until I was leaving Sunday afternoon. I saw her standing by her POS-looking RV with a large fountain beverage in one hand and a dog leash in the other. It was one of those yappy little fluffball dogs, too. She glared at me as I drove past, and I just waved to her and said, "Bye, Karen," out my window. She threw her drink at my truck, but none of it got in through the window. I could hear her yelling at me, but couldn't really make out a word of it. I'm not sure what goes on in the heads of these people. I understand this could have gotten a lot worse, like that nut bar sicking the local ranger on me or something. But I think the public humiliation was enough to make her back off. I can only wonder if the rest of her family is just like her. Glad I didn't meet them. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.